Ladies and gentlemen, the Astro-CHADS are about to get canceled because tonight we're going into Cancer. So, what does this sign mean?
Right. No, you touch on a good point there with the canceling. But Cancer is the crab. Cancer is the crab. Sometimes in certain mythologies, she is the beetle. Okay, this sign is the beetle, the scarab, scarab, beetle, scarab, crab, right? Also, in some people's eyes, it rules all crustaceans. So all, crawfish, lobsters. Yeah.
So, where does the name come from? Really, what's the etymology, the astro-etymology of Cancer?
Right. So Cancer is a combination of two or three words, but primarily you get Cancer from constellation Canis. Canis. So Canis Major and Canis Minor. And within Canis, you have Sirius. Sirius, the dog star. So Sirius is also known as Cerberus sometimes, right? And if you're very serious about something, you might be dead serious, or this is because Sirius has a connection to the underworld and the dog of the underworld, right? So the can from Canis and Cancer is where we get the can for canine. So we get the dog star, canines, from Cancer. We also, from this sign, we get words like cannabis, okay, candy, and I'll tell you why. Cancer rules expansion, indulgence, similar to Taurus, like we were speaking about. Taurus and Cancer actually share a lot of qualities. Taurus being an earth sign, Cancer being a water sign. Cancer is ruled by the moon. The moon exalts in Taurus, so there's a connection between those two. And the lunar qualities are ones of sensuality, okay, and femininity. We said Taurus is the girlfriend, well, Cancer is the woman. And Cancer has a connection to the breasts. So I know we'll talk about the body part a little bit more later on, but Cancer represents motherhood. It is the sign of motherhood. So that's why it rules the breasts. Crabs actually are the animals that have some of the most children per, organism. Like one mom will have like 1,000,000 eggs. It's crazy sometimes. So real quick, Con also goes back to Jupiter, right? Con meaning king, or keen, being able to see. So this also goes back to Cancer, because Jupiter exalts in Cancer. So there's 3 planets that are involved in Cancer. The moon primarily. Then we have Neptune having a part rulership or a part exaltation. And then we have Jupiter having a definite exaltation, meaning Jupiter wants to be in Cancer. Why? Because Jupiter rules expansion. That is where Cancer gets this spirit of expansion.
What
So it gets,
exactly do you mean by exaltation, though? Just to backtrack a little bit.
sure. So exaltation means that a sign is best suited to have a planet in it, meaning that's the most desirable place. For example, you would want the moon to be in Taurus. You would want your Mercury to be in Virgo or Gemini. You would want your sun to be in Aries. And there's actually, people have kind of forecast, people who have a complete exalted chart. And basically, that's one way to kind of bring about a superhuman, is to have a fully exalted chart. But no one
Wow.
actually has that much. It basically means that a planet is satisfied largely, unless there's a significant aspect happening to that planet, or the house which it's in is very unfavorable, which tends not to be the case with houses. They tend to be more telling you information, and you get more of this harmonic elemental clash in the elements, like I said. So if Jupiter is expansive, but it's also warm and moist, it likes to be somewhere pretty much warm and moist.
So when you have a planet exalted in your chart, it means you're getting the most potent energies of that planet.
It means that planet is most satisfied and it's doing what it's best at doing. For example, Jupiter rules expansion and abundance, Well, that's the planet that rules abundance. The sign that rules abundance, one of them would be Sagittarius because it's ruled by Jupiter. The other would be Cancer because Jupiter is exalted. So Jupiter lends its qualities to these signs. Cancer also is doubly expansive because of the moon. The moon rules multiplication. The moon rules multiplication and motherhood. The moon, the mother, is a multiplier and is capable of multiplying one into many. Now, Jupiter can take one, something that is small, and turn it into something that is large, right? Or something that is dense into something that is less dense, but more expanded. This is the planet of enlightenment. That's why it's right here in the third eye chakra, blah, blah, blah. So Cancer gets a large, most of its influence from the moon, part influence from Jupiter, and then another from Neptune in the eyes of Sun. That Neptune also exalts in Cancer. Well, Cancer rules the oceans, especially it rules the threshold between land and the sea, especially beaches, coves. This is the Cancerian realm, the motherly realm, the most favoring and hospitable to mankind. Man was made to dwell on the ocean by the cove, where life is easy, where things are fresh. And Cancer, back to the name, the can comes from Canis, and the dog, canine, the dog star, in the constellation. And then Cer comes from Sirius or Cerberus, like we said. So Cancers can be very serious, right?
Wow.
And why is that? Because they are
Yep.
they are directly opposite the sign that rules comedy, Capricorn. So that axis of Capricorn ruling comedy, like Jim Carrey, the most Capricorn of them all, is right across from Cancer, which is Sirius, which rules to be serious. So Cancers can be a little bit serious. They also like to cancel their plans, like
Hmm.
you said. Cancer always has, some of the tarot and hermetic imagery behind Cancer is 1 foot in the water, 1 foot in the ocean. Sorry, 1 foot in the ocean, 1 foot on land. It's not like a Gemini split personality thing. It's more being there. They don't commit. And
They're not part of the herd, it seems, almost.
well, crabs are sidesteppers, and they typically are solitary. But crabs, they like to retreat into their home, into their hole. So just like Virgo, the hermit crab, right? Cancer and Virgo are the two signs that are most passive. Pisces as well, receptive, and like to retreat back to the home. Cancer and Virgo especially like to spend time at the home. And Cancer canceling plans, if they go somewhere, they typically won't stay that long. About them, this rings true for so many. It's actually astounding how many Cancers will do that. Make plans. Oh, everyone's going out, and then they'll go and they'll be there. They'll be there last, stay the least, and leave the earliest.
Wow.
They've always kind of dodging people because, like the crab, they're sidesteppers. Another thing is Cancer is not known for facing their problems head on. They typically sidestep or avoid their issues, which gets them a bad reputation sometimes. But Cancer is the best nurturer of the zodiac by far. Cancers just want to take care of people. They want to fulfill the motherly role, both men and women. Cancers, they like to take care of their friends and their partners. They can be extremely loyal to. Cancer is the most conservative, old-fashioned lover, girlfriend, partner. They almost always, 99% of Cancers want one partner. Find them young, get married, stay with them for the rest of your life. Cancers are just always in that mindset. It's second nature. And they're more worried about the home and the home life. So they're just like, okay, relationship, get it out of the way. Done. I can make it work. I love everyone. I can nurture anyone. That's kind of their mentality. And then they are very geared towards getting a home. That's kind of a cliche because the 4th house rules the home, the house life, and the 4th house is ruled by Cancer. But it is true. Cancer rules the home. And back to cravings, candy. So also Cancer, we were saying how Cancer is that which reproduces uncontrollably, right? Well, that is a Cancerian principle to multiply, reproduce uncontrollably, and expand at the same time. Well, that's that Jupiterian influence. It's too much good. It's reproducing too much to the point of danger or threatening the organism, and that's why Cancer got its name, Cancer, because it means to reproduce, to multiply quickly. And what's the most? Cancer rules the breasts. What part of the body? Cancer rules the breasts. And Cancer rules women. What is the most common type of cancer in women? Breast
cancer.
cancer.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I have so many thoughts, man. And the one thing that you said about multiplication is actually something I've been thinking about all week, because astrology is almost a form of multiplication in a way. Because currently, when I hear somebody say, "Oh, the moon is in Taurus," or there's a Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, it's a form of multiplication, because you have to know what Jupiter entails, you have to know what Saturn entails, and those forces are sort of combined or multiplied by one another, and there's sort of a mathematical, I almost said mathemagical, but mathematical conjunction that, as an intro to astrology guy, I don't necessarily know, right? So it's sort of a form of multiplication when you multiply these forces together to understand what's happening. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and especially with Cancer, you start getting a lot more dimensions to the sign because it's the last sign in the sequence of fire, earth, air, water. So it's our first water sign. It's the first repetition of the cardinal signs, meaning Aries is a cardinal sign, Taurus is a fixed sign, Gemini is a mutable sign. Well, that 3 repeats 4 times in the zodiac, meaning Cancer starts again with cardinal. So cardinal, fixed, mutable. That's going to repeat from Cancer, Leo, Virgo. You're going to go again, cardinal, fixed, mutable. And that repeats again and again. So it's also music. If you think about this music, it's almost like 5D chess too, or 3D chess, whatever, where you have polyrhythms. For those who know anything about music, polyrhythms, multiple rhythms happening within each other that sync up at the end perfectly. So there's a system of 3 repeating, a system of 4. So a system of 3 repeating 4 times. There's a system of 4, a sequence of 4 repeating 3 times. Then there is the masculine, feminine. So either or, all the way through the zodiac. Masculine, feminine, feminine, masculine, feminine. So that's a sequence of 2 repeating. So there's all these sequences, and you could go on because there's more ways to look at that, but multiplication is exactly right because there's mathematics, music, geometry, all of this occurring within proportion, because all of this is occurring within the zodiac and is the origin of all the sciences as we know them. Yeah. Speaking of,
yep,
I've got to talk. Cancer rules music. Cancer rules music. So Aries rules like war, battle, survival in a way, staking your claim, being just existing is a bit of a battle. Taurus rules possessions, having things, earning things, accumulating. Gemini rules thinking, communication, social sphere. Cancer rules music and also art. This is the artistic, creative, the first real creative sign of the zodiac. And that's because of the connection with the muse. And who else? The siren.
Where the mother creating life, right?
Mm-hmm. And where does the siren come from? Is Sirius. If you're Sirius, you're a Syrian. You're a siren, right? A good singer. If you can sing in Spanish, they will call you a cantador, if I'm not mistaken. Canta means singer. If someone's singing, canta, cantando, whatever. Cantamos, we're singing, I believe. If my Spanish is not too rusty, yeah. Cantar is to sing. So that goes back to Cancer as well. And then the muse is music, where music comes from. The woman, the muse, the object of creative expression is this beautiful woman archetype. And Cancer is the first and the true and the pure original woman mother archetype. We said
Wow.
we said that Taurus was the virgin, the young maiden, maybe even too young for marriage, but reaching fertility. Cancer is the full-blown womanhood, right? So the moon, menstrual, menstrual cycles, hormones, all these moon words. Monday is the day for Cancer, and money. So there's a connection with Taurus and money and possessions, but then in terms of your assets and your house, that is what Cancer rules, the home and the house. And what I'm saying is, what better asset is that? What bigger asset do you have than your home? So in that sense, Cancer does rule wealth, wealth. But the siren, being this aquatic creature who sings to the sailors to bring them down, Cancer also gets from its name. In there you have the word anchor. So anchor, Cancer, answer. And here's another one. If Gemini rules questions, like we said, asking, educating, inquiring, the Q, Mercury ruling Gemini. If you're inquiring something, that is the question.
Right. Cancer is the answer.
And then Cancer is the next sign in the sequence. That's the answer.
Yeah.
So yeah, and Cancer is the answer, and that has answers, right? It's also the shellfish, so they can be a bit, and they also have a rough exterior. Definitely, they can have this shell,
Yeah.
like a exoskeleton.
So like Mr. Krabs, he was selfish, right? He was just a money grubbing fast food owner, I guess. But man, okay, the dog star Sirius, as far as I know, is closest to the sun on July 4th, right? Around there. So it's kind of like America's a Cancer, if you will. You know what I mean? And another thought I had about the dog star Sirius is the fact that there's a Star Wars character named Darth Sidious, right? So that's obviously a play on the dog star Sirius. Darth Sidious, dog star Sirius. It's remarkably similar.
Oh yes, it definitely is. You've got a lot of those with Star Wars, like Obi is Hobie or Jehovah. That's Jupiter. He's the good teacher, the author. He's Jupiter, Obi-Wan Kenobi. And there's more to that, but yeah, we won't have to make it a Star Wars.
Yeah, I just had to get that one in there. I don't know that I'm like a Star Wars casual viewer. I've seen them all. The first original 6. Never got into the new ones once they sold out.
Oh, they're terrible.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I can't do it. But I really enjoyed the first 6.
Oh yeah.
Especially the ones in the early 2000s. So what else we got here? Probably we want to bring up some examples of Cancers. 4 men, 2 women is what we have. Is there anybody that comes to mind?
Yeah, I believe. So let's just go through like the appearance type. Cancers can put on weight the easiest. Okay, so no offense, Cancers, but they tend to swell up with age. It's very tough for them to keep weight off. They put it on easiest. So that's a struggle for most Cancers. Many Cancers, I should say, not most, but many. And you can see in Cancers there's 3 types. Like we said, there is the moon-faced. Okay, the moon-faced Cancer will have this very wide, open set face with very milky white features, or if they're, dark-skinned, melanated, whatever, very smooth, moon-like features, almost like a dull glow. And I'll say that Meryl Streep fits this type.
Oh, Meryl.
Yeah, so Meryl Streep fits this type, and I had to double check she was a Cancer. She is. John Cusack fits
Okay.
this type. It's just this kind of spread out, just more. I would even say that 50 Cent has this look about him, wide face. Oh,
I'm gonna blow your mind.
Tom Hanks is kind of the utmost. Elon Musk is completely pasty, moon faced. So they all have this kind of, I remember saying Gemini has bulbous features. Cancer is
Yeah.
not the lunar type, the moon type cancers. They're not so much bulbous, they're more spherical in total and wide set and across. They kind of have like a PSP shaped head sometimes. But Elon Musk, totally. Selena Gomez is
Hmm.
very much they have this powdered look about them. Meryl Streep. And then I'll say there's another type. The other type is the Jupiterian. And well, that lunar type Cancer will have these crabby characteristics. They might walk sideways. That's something like Tom Cruise, for example. He doesn't really have the moon face. But when you see him run, it's almost like each step he takes him a different direction, but he's moving forward somehow. And cancers are kind of like that. And then I'll
Okay.
say,
Yeah.
you want to pop in?
Yeah, I got something for you. So when you
Okay.
talked about sidesteppers, right, it immediately made me think of boxers. So I looked up famous
yeah.
Cancer boxers. Mike Tyson is a Cancer, and Canelo Alvarez is also a Cancer. Those are probably the most notable. There's a bunch of other ones, but it's just interesting.
Yeah.
Sidestepping almost perfectly applies to boxing.
Now, what does Cancer more so have to do with boxing? The crab claw. The red mitt is the Cancer crab. And you find even more than that. John Jones, Mike Tyson, and there's others. There's others for sure. But let me see. You search Cancer fighters, it's just a bunch of pink ribbon BS. But Cancers, yeah, lots of fighters because they have something. They'll have a chip on their shoulder a lot of the time. Cancers always have the need to get something off their chest. They don't like having something on their chest. So cancers will confide in people a lot and really will pour their hearts out to people, pour themselves out. Yeah.
It just makes complete sense that a water sign is ruled by the moon. You know what it means? Because the moon essentially controls the tides, as far as I know, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's just in perfect alignment, you know?
Yeah. So this other type, in that first type, I'd say can be kind of mopey or, what other words come from the moon? Lunatic, right? Lunacy.
Yeah.
So the first type can be kind of depressed, watery, emotional. Cancer rules the emotions. I should have mentioned that earlier. Cancer rules feeling. So the motto for Cancer is I feel. They are the emotional ones, the oceanal, ruling the ocean and the motions of the seas, things like that. And Cancer, who else? The more Jupiterian type of Cancers are a little more jolly, right? Both of these types can put on weight. Both are Cancers, but the Jupiterians will have a little bit more of a fire to them or air of like supremacy, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Arrogance, kind of an I'm better than you, not always in a bad way, but committed to truth. You could say that as, for example, Princess Diana, right? You've also got Spencer Pratt.
Let's go,
Not
Spencer.
not Spencer Pratt.
Oh,
Is it Chris Pratt?
my Atlantean brother, Spencer Pratt of MTV's The Hills.
Okay,
I don't
no,
know. Is
wrong
Chris
guy.
Pratt?
Chris
What?
Pratt's the Jurassic Park guy. My bad.
Oh, okay.
But Ariana Grande, Tom Cruise, right? Margot Robbie, okay, and they can be very sensual and they can be a bit on the feminine side too, like Hugh Jackman, right?
Yeah. Would you say that cancers are defensive, especially when you invade their territory? Sort of like the behavior of a crab?
Well, I think that's what makes them such good boxers is not only are they comfortable having their fingers taken away from them. Why? Because they're not only the best sign for boxing, Cancer is the best chef. And what does the chef wear? Okay. The
Hmm.
mitts, just like the boxer, a mitt, a boxing mitt, chef's mitt. So Cancer is the best cook, right? So they're defensive, they're receptive. Whatever comes their way, I think they can handle. So just like Taurus, we were saying, they are much a defense sign. Cancer is very much like that too. But Cancer is also a cardinal sign, meaning that they can be very direct.
Shit. Cancer, how they dress, that's interesting. Clothing style, that's interesting.
Yeah, for Cancers, I would just say they tend to dress conservative. In my opinion, I don't see a well-defined clothing style coming through until Leo, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
For me, Cancer can be a little all over the place. I don't think Cancer is really known for their image. They're really more known for their effect on people's lives or getting to know people, their emotional skill, things like this. And Cancer can be okay in the background a lot of the time.
Would
But
you
like
say
I
that cancers have like a tough exterior, meaning
yeah,
it's hard to get to know them, but once you get to know them, they're soft on the inside, kind of like a lobster. But
yes.
it's like a tough exterior. They kind of might have a wall or something, right?
Yeah, they're very evasive. Cancers are very evasive. They do have a tough exterior, but they have the softest meat on the inside, like a crab, like a lobster. And when you tickle a lobster, they'll jolt back the other direction, right? So they're very evasive animals. And also with crustaceans, who's the animal that can punch the hardest? It's that little shrimp, isn't it? Does that count as a crustacean? I'm not sure. But that the little mantis shrimp,
Okay.
something like that. The one that
Yeah.
can punch. Yeah, there's a little shrimp that can punch really hard, and very Cancerian in that
Okay.
regard.
So I got a
Yeah,
good question for you, man.
sure.
So there's this classic cliche of crabs in a bucket tearing each other down instead of helping each other to get to the top. Now, when cancers are around, right? So when cancers are around each other, are they willing to screw each other over in hopes of pursuing their own personal interests?
Yeah, like I said, the shellfish can be selfish, believe it or not. They love taking care of their underlings. If they can be in a mother position, they'll accumulate as many friends, as many family members as they can. But Cancer, especially the women, they like to get their way. Okay. They're very much committed to a man, but they don't like competing. Like I said, conservative. Cancer is the least likely sign to be like, hey, hon, let's try an open relationship or things like that. Like, no way. Cancer tend to be very anti competition, anti stepping out of the box, right? They like to be in the box. So, if that's not to Cancer is the sign that's you're least likely gonna have tattoos, right? That's just in my opinion. That's my experience. Cancers like to, I wouldn't say walk the straight and narrow path, but they very much like to settle. They like to settle down, just be settled. They don't like to have a chaotic life. And you say tough exterior. Their tough exterior is kind of public, but they like to create that communal safe space, so to speak, in the home, in the family. And yeah.
Wow. So, what are some things that cancer rules that most people aren't aware of?
Well, I would say candy is one of them. Cooking, chefs. We kind of went through most of them. Dogs, especially, and hounds.
So something I've been thinking about in regards to cancer and the astro-etymology of that sign are two simple words, can and can't. How would you
Mhm.
describe the attitudes of cancers?
Well, like we talked about before, cancers tend to be on the subservient side. They tend to be submissive. They tend to respond well to authority. And cancers, like, they're very connected to their mothers. Okay. So back to what you say, can't and can in Cancer, I see can, sir. It's almost like yes man, like I'm a
Mhm.
yes man, I'm a can, sir, right? Or saying, yes, sir, showing subordinates to people, showing that you're beneath someone or showing respect to people above you. This is a Cancerian quality. So it's not just Cancers who display this. Everyone who has kind of this inner respect for authority or elders has a strong Cancer, or
Wow.
if that makes sense.
So the
Cancer
4th of
is.
July is like truly Cancerian in the sense that it's this patriotic holiday and people are sort of celebrating Uncle Sam, this image of
Mhm.
the military industrial complex and sort of the American conquest of the world, if you will. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah.
so I got a good one for you. So when I think about Mike Tyson, he's
Mhm.
somebody that if you're in his arena, he's literally going to claw your head off.
Oh, yeah.
He's got some famously violent quotes about people who have entered into the ring with him. So will a Cancer just pinch somebody's freaking head off if they're in their territory, sort of invading them, if you will?
Yeah, Cancers can be very. Yeah, I mean, Mike Tyson's the perfect stereotypical, archetypical, quintessential Cancer. He just is. He has the softest meat ever. He cries in like a majority of his podcasts. He'll
Right. Yeah.
he'll it doesn't matter who he has on. He'll find a topic to cry about, and
Yeah.
he's just so sensitive. He doesn't care. Cancers are very much criers too. They'll tell you that they like to just be present with their emotions and feel them and blah 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 blah, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And he's very much like that. So yeah, he can put on a tough exterior, but it's also not a facade. It's very much, a lot of those Cancers have spiked, tough, strong shells,
Yeah.
and they are imposing. So.
He's somebody also who can get big easily, whether it's muscle or fat. He can get big when he wants.
Mhm.
And another thing I'm thinking about in regards to Cancers, and somebody like Mike Tyson as an example, they might be hard for like the first half of their life, but maybe a male Cancer will be this super hard, tough fighter guy for his young life, but he might become some really loving grandpa at another phase of his life.
Yeah, that's another thing about Cancers is you don't see as many like A-list celebrities or A-list football players or A-list rock stars, because Cancers really will just kind of give it up and walk away and go back to the family, or say, okay, well, this was fun, but now I've got a family, so time to wind things down. Cancer is very much like that. And emotional people, Tom Cruise, emotional guy for sure. And who else? I think Tom Hardy, is he a Cancer?
One thing I think about with Tom Cruise and Mike Tyson is their energy. It's rather sporadic. Tom Cruise will be super high in energy, freak out a little bit, and then kind of just chill, I guess. He'll be like, he'll be on the couches on Oprah freaking out. You know what I mean? He's sort of got this spastic energy to him. And so does Mike, where he will spaz out if he needs to, but they're not
Hmm.
necessarily spazzing all the time.
Right. And it's always kind of emotional, derived from the emotions. It's not really a excess energy thing. And I would kind of say that's just lunacy. These people are ruled by the moon, and their hormones might be less predictable, more subject to tides, extreme change, and lunacy.
Yeah, and maybe if I was gonna say, maybe the women can be loose. You know what I mean? Or
Hmm.
maybe, the crab guys can be losers if they don't get their shit together, I guess.
Hmm.
There's a lot of Lou words,
Oh yeah.
lucid. One thing we could talk about is just the fact that America is a Cancer. That's pretty wild, you know?
Hmm.
All right, so let's
Oh
get
yeah.
into that.
Well, it's fitting that it's our motherland, and Uncle Sam. You could say, well, oh, isn't Cancer is the mother? What does Uncle Sam have to do with it? Well, Uncle goes back to Neptune, because Enki is the root of anchors, Enki, and yeah,
Ink, as in
ink,
signing the Declaration of Independence and stuff like that.
hmm
It's a big
ink,
ink country for sure.
anchors, and then that Neptune is also where we get the word nephew. Nephew. Why? Because father comes from Jupiter. Jupiter, Pater, Japheth, father, Peter, the author. So all goes back to Thor or Jupiter, right? So that's where father comes from. And then you have, that's the father. Well, the brother of Jupiter is Neptune. So that's the uncle, Enki, because Enki and Neptune are the same. And then he's the uncle, but if he's your uncle, you're his nephew. Neptune, nephew, uncle, Enki, right? So Uncle Sam goes back to Enki, believe it or not. Believe it or not.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Khloe
So-
Kardashian,
Yeah.
The Situation, Post Malone, okay.
He kind of
Kevin
looks like a
Hart,
crab. He looks like he's got
Emotion-
crabs.
emotional people.
Yeah.
Are crabs.
I wonder if George Washington's a Cancer.
Oh, Vin Diesel, talk about tough exteriors or like false exteriors, you know?
Yeah.
And then he's like singing Rihanna on YouTube, like in his house by himself.
Is he really? That's hilarious. I
Sensual
can't blame her for
guy.
that. She's got some hits. You know, she really does at the end of the day.
Yeah, he was singing her in like his like bass voice. It was hilarious.
Oh, really? All right, let's think of some. The American stuff is dope with Cancer. I was thinking like Department of Defense, and I'm thinking about how like the claws of America would be like the East Coast, maybe. I don't know. Maine is very Cancerian when you just look at it.
Well, the 69 of Cancer, I should have said this earlier. The 69 in Cancer is the crab claws going like this, right?
Yep.
Fitting like that, put away, you know, sheathed, so to speak. And that's the 6 and the 9. 69, the Tropic of Cancer, is the top of the Masonic arch, which represents, you know, the kingdom of heaven, right? Kingdom of Jesus ruling the Jupiter ruling the summer, presiding over summer, which is June, July. Ju goes back to Jupiter. How do we know that Jupiter exalts in Cancer? Because Cancer is June, the end of June, and the first 2/3 of July, right? So June and July, that comes from Jupiter exalting in Cancer.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow, it's wild. June and July obviously relate to Jupiter. It's something that's right in front of us, but we don't necessarily think about, you know?
And Juno. Juno is a wife of Jupiter. So
let's talk about maybe compatibility, and you kind of touch on it. I feel like you have this our outline sort of in your subconscious, and you kind of just go through it. Is there anything else worth talking about with compatibility and dating? What would it be like for a guy to date a Cancer? Just ejaculate in her?
Yeah, so Juno was Jupiter's wife and sister. I would say that the word incest also goes back to, because ink comes from shellfish, these ancient inks that the Phoenicians were using, right?
Right.
Well, ink is also incest. You know, who's the family member that's kind of the creepy one? That's, hey, watch out for that one with the uncle, the creepy uncle. Okay, Cancer is that which reproduces uncontrollably. If you're in the ocean, you need an ink. Or female reproduction is ruled by Taurus. Cancer rules motherhood. But male fertility in the runic system is ruled by Ingvi. Ingvi, right? So this this ung sound has a connection to Cancer through its rulership of Neptune. And oncologist is someone who treats cancer. Oncologist. So that which reproduces uncontrollably. Yeah.
Wow. And it's interesting, the horseshoe crab connection to their ink, which is royal blue, blue being one of the colors of Cancer, blue and white, really, right?
Yeah. And if you're looking at it in a 12 colored spectrum, it would be orange to yellow. Yellow because Leo is gold. You know, Leo's the light of the sun. The halo, Leo. We'll get to Leo, but
awesome. So the next fucking level of astrology, in my view, is like the mathematics of it. You know, like let's say you got the forces of Jupiter and then Leo. So Jupiter is in Leo right now. I don't know what that means, and sort of the next level really is understanding the forces of Leo and understanding the forces of Jupiter and what that means.
Well, that's why we're going through these signs and understanding who rules them. So where do each of these signs get their flavor? So if Sagittarius gets its flavor from Jupiter, or if Cancer gets its flavor, its characteristics, its attributes from the moon, then once we get to know Cancer, we thereby also get to know the moon. And when you get to know where the moon is happiest, you will also eventually get to know where the moon is least happy, and all the planets, where they're happiest, where they're least happy. And this is what we would say as exaltation or fall. Okay. Then there's also rulership and detriment, but we can worry about those later. There's exaltation and fall. If a planet is falling in a sign that it is not favored in, you could say that is a fallen angel, because it is in fallen angle. The angle of your chart, the planets are going to be, also the aspects could not be good. So a fallen angle. So once we understand the rulerships, we know where a planet is happy, where a planet's not happy. You're going to be able to locate tension, friction in your chart, and do something about it, whether it's a lifestyle change, talismanic magic, stones, things to offset a planetary deficiency or overactivity, etc. And yeah.
It's interesting. So when the planet is not happy, it's not like all planets are all good or all bad. It's they have a yin and a yang to them. So it's like when a planet is not in its favorite position, you're going to get that other side of that planet, right?
Right. Well, for example, Saturn, who's a bad guy, if you find Saturn in a favorable sign or house, because Saturn's a kind of slow-moving planet. With these slow-moving planets, I should also say, don't expect them to change signs very quickly. So with Jupiter spends a year in each sign of the zodiac. It's roughly a 12-year cycle. So with Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, you're really talking about large windows of time in which, especially getting towards Pluto, entire generations of people are born inside of. So you'll see people, 15 years, people will have the same Pluto in a row. And even longer, I believe it's 19 years. Pluto takes 247 or 246 years to go all the way through the zodiac. And in each of those signs, it can range between 11 to 32 years on average, like 19.
It's interesting. It's like, so once you know sort of the planetary aspects and how they interact with where they want to be, where they don't want to be, there's also another sort of calculation, if you will, in seeing how that applies to your chart, right? Because it's like, something that might favor somebody else might not favor you. Something that might disfavor you might, not disfavor somebody else. So it's like there's all these almost different calculations of all these energies, interacting with one another. And it takes a lot of study to sort of understand the mathematics of it, really, because that's the only way I can logically sort of find a way to formulate how to calculate these energies.
Yeah, it comes to you. It seems overwhelming at first. I just say don't bite off more than you can chew. It's good to get both your feet in, but start with the moon. Understand how the moon affects things as it moves, because that's the closest to us. It's the one that you can almost get your hands on. And the moon is the most practical planet to get a grasp of. Then, once you've understood the 12 signs, the 12 signs in order, the 7 planets in order, plus the 3 extra, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. Well, then you'll have everything you need to know. The next step is the exaltations and rulerships and the falls. Falls is where a planet doesn't want to be. And here we can say this. It's not so much wanting to be, doesn't want to be, as it is friction. So when a planet's where it wants to be or exalted, you could almost say that it's pacified, meaning it's not going to be working against you. But also aspects, we're also, as we're saying all this, we're excluding the entire aspect of aspects, which is aspects are how different planets will angle themselves against each other when viewed from the circle chart, right? People see their birth chart done in the circle, which is my favorite way to look at the birth chart. In my view, that's the truest way to look at a birth chart.
Very cool, man. It's interesting because the angles of light, there's a geometry, geo meaning like earth to them. So these angles of light are hitting the earth, and it's sort of about calculating how these angles apply to you in the world around you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
Astro, throw that ass back, girl.
all right. So I have a question to ask you. How many hours of streaming did you do yesterday?
I did about 2 hours, 3 to 5. Then I did an hour with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I did 2.5 hours last night at 8,
Mm-hmm.
I think.
So it's 5.5 hours, right?
About.
Okay. So that's why I have subscribed to the Old World Florida Patreon. This guy did 5.5 hours yesterday. Today is going to be something similar. You know what I mean? We were going over his schedule for next week because we're going to schedule in the next 4 signs for next week. It's jam packed. So for $5 a month, which I already forgot about and already don't care about, this is well worth it. Okay. 5.5 hours just yesterday. After he did an hour with me, we were going over Gemini yesterday. I watched him talk about stuff with some Moorish dude, and it was fascinating. And I learned a ton in the process. So that's why personally I have signed up for the Patreon, because I feel like I'm getting plenty, you know what I mean, in terms of monthly value.
Hell yeah, man. I appreciate that. I was muted because it's thundering here. We kind of just dodged a storm, or storms rolling through right now. So it's good that we're concluding here. And thanks for that, man. Appreciate it.
All right. So next is Leo, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a
Leo.
fun one. I'm looking forward to that. Leo, then Virgo, which is my sign, so I'm really looking forward to that one. Libra, then Sagittarius, which is your sign. I know you're looking forward to that.
No, yeah, that one might have to be 2 hours. Who knows?
Okay.
No, just
Awesome.
kidding. Just kidding. It'll be equal treatment around here.
All right, guys. Signing off.
Good night.
See ya.
Peace.